Survey Builder presentation. Okay, so I am inside the the Salesforce right now. I am under the ClickTools app, but in order to get to the Evaluation Survey Builder database, you need to go to Survey Builder. Okay, so once you're in Survey Builder, the ribbon at the top or the taskbar at the top should include all of these objects. So it should include the organizations, the contacts, reports, surveys, sections, questions, display rules, survey instances, the dashboard, and program details. If there are tabs that are not appearing on this ribbon, all you need to do is click on the plus sign, and it will show you a list of all the tabs and apps that are available within Salesforce. And you cannot just click on it. That really doesn't work all that well. You actually have to go to Customize My Tabs, find the tab that you want, and then add it. So for instance, this Survey Editor 2 is a part of the Survey Builder, and so if I want that to be included along my ribbon at the top, I need to customize and add it to my ribbon. So click on that, click Add and Save, and then it should appear at the top. So that's how you add different apps to within the Survey Builder object. So we're going to go to Surveys. So under Surveys, there is a list of all the surveys that we've created for every program here at Points of Light since 2008. You do not need to know that. You don't need to know all of those. All you need to know are the disaster reports. So under the View drop-down, there's a list of all of the programs that you can view. Just make sure you click on Disaster Recovery and Go, and all of the disaster reports will populate. So once all of those reports show up, this is the details page. So you have the survey name, the record ID. So the record ID is kind of like the survey ID. So if at any time you need to find the survey, you can use this ID. It's rare, though, that you will need to use it. A description of what the survey is, the due date, the program name, which is disaster, and then the type of report that it is. And so right now, Sheikah is the owner of most of the surveys, because whoever creates the survey is the person who owns the survey. And it will give you more information about when it was created, when it was last modified, etc. So the members, it seems that they were completing a monthly report within Salesforce, but that ended. I think it looks like their last monthly was in January. So I would assume that there is another method that you all are using to create or collect their monthly reports. And I guess that's in Google, and Irena and Eric have been trained on that. Is that correct?
To my understanding.
Okay. So then what will live inside of the Survey Builder will be the quarterly reports and the final report for the program year. So I'm going to open up the final report. We'll just use that as our example for today. So once you're in and clicked on the survey name, you'll get all the details about that survey. So this is the survey detail at the top, and it kind of goes through all of that information I just showed you on the previous page. But there are some additional buttons here. So you can edit, submit for approval, clone it, delete it, and the data export. We're not going to go over this Survey Editor 2 button here. And then there's some other links down here that will require a much longer training, so we won't go over those. Just don't click these down here, these custom links. Just leave those alone. If you scroll down, you can see the contents of the survey, which are the sections, which it looks like there are only 3 sections, and the survey instances. And so a survey instance is really the person who is responding to the survey, who the organization and the contact person that you have assigned to submit the survey. So what's different about SurveyBuilder than ClickTools or SurveyMonkey is that you actually have to assign the report to someone, and that person gets a login, and they log into the customer portal, which I will show you. That's the user end of the report. They have to log in and complete the survey on their end, which is different. And this in SurveyBuilder, since we're connecting it to an organization and to a person, once they submit and complete their data, all of that is connected back to that respondent organization and to the contact person. So before you create a survey instance, you need to make sure that the organization and the contact are already saved inside Salesforce. I'm going to go over what that looks like as well. Okay. The next thing that you will see on this page are display rules. And so the display rules are kind of like a skip logic. So if yes to this question, then skip to this one. If no, then skip to that one. So that's what the display rules are, and you have to actually create a display rule. And it does not look like for any of your programs that that is necessary, that you don't have any of that. Open activities we don't really use, but if you wanted to create a new task or an event that's associated with this report, you would do it here. And we also don't really use this activity history, which allows us to keep track of our activity with the survey, but we don't really use those, so don't worry about them. Are there any questions so far?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, great. So what I will show you is how to create a survey instance. All right. No, I'm not going to show you that first. I'm going to show you how to clone the survey first. So if all of your questions remain the same, then you do not have to create a new survey. You can just clone an existing survey. So we're going to clone this survey by clicking on clone. Hopefully you can see a pop-up screen appeared. Did a pop-up screen appear?
Yes, it did.
Okay. So we're just going to, you need to rename your survey every time you clone it. Because if you do not, it'll replace the other one. So make sure that you give the new survey a different name. And so we're just going to call this the test survey. And you also need to make sure that your due date is the accurate due date. So we're going to just click on inside of the box, a calendar appears, and you can select when you want your due date to be. One thing to note is that the due date is actually an arbitrary date. meaning that a survey never really closes. Even we give a date so that our survey respondents know when it is due, but it doesn't really close. So even if I say that the survey is due October 31st, if they need to submit on November the 15th, it's still open for them to do that. If they want to do it 6 months later, it's still open. We don't recommend it, so we just give them a due date, but it's always open, FYI. Then there are two buttons here. So there is a kind of a lengthy process that could go into creating new survey instances. But if your survey instances, meaning the people who are responding to the survey, are the exact same people from the previous one, then you can click on Clone Survey Instances and it will clone those instances for you. The same goes with the data, which I rarely use, but if you know that for all the surveys the data is going to be the same and you want that data to pre-populate into the survey, you can also click the Clone Data button. I do not do that, so I probably would not recommend you doing it either, but it's there as an option. Another thing to note is that if you click on this Also Clone Survey Instances survey, and you click the Clone button, which we are not about to do, but if you do that, then your survey instances, the people who will be responding to the survey, will instantly get an email that says their survey is now ready and they can begin to complete their survey. It's very helpful if they're the same survey instances and you're ready with this report. But since this is a test, I am not going to do that because I don't want them to receive an email. So I'm going to unclick that and just click Clone, and it will begin the cloning process. So we've had great success. Our survey cloned successfully, and it says that here at the top. And then you can also see in this box that if there were any errors, meaning that it did not successfully clone, it will tell you why right here, and you can go back and fix it. And then the output shows you what was actually cloned. Okay, the next step that I use when I'm cloning a survey is I click on this survey link because I want to make sure that everything that's included in my description is correct and accurate. Because when the end user receives their email and or clicks on the survey, you want all of this information to be correct. They will only see the survey name, the description, and the due date, so you want to make sure that whatever you use is correct. What is important for you though, and why you need to make sure that this information is filled out, is the type and the program. Because if you want to later create a report, it's easier to find what you need to create the report if these fields are completed. So we're going to say this is the programmatic report, and we're going to look on program and click Disaster Recovery Vista. And you have different versions, which are just years, and you have 2014, 2015. And then I'm going to just add that this is a test survey in the description. And click Save. So once it gets back to this screen where it's empty, you know that it's been successful, and just close out the box. Now where did our survey go? The survey that we just cloned. You need to go back to surveys. So you can click on this survey tab here, or you can click on this link that says back to list surveys. And now you can see that our test report is right here. Okay. So we're going to click on our test report, and we want to create a new survey instance. So I am going to create a survey instance for myself. And so one reason why you, Cameron, or Eric, or Irena, whoever is creating a survey, you want to make sure that you always create a survey instance for yourself. And the reason why you want to do that is because you want to make sure that, one, the email notification goes out properly, and you also want to make sure that you can go back in and preview the survey. And I will show you what that means. So once you're creating a survey instance, there are all these different fields that you need to complete. When there are multiple people with the same name, the drop-down box will appear, and you can select which person you want. So Kim Walker is already there. But sometimes in Salesforce, there are people with the same name, or multiple contacts, or maybe like, for example, Chris Sizemore has been at 3 different organizations. And so he probably has 3 different contacts, and they have not been merged together yet. So you want to make sure that you're always selecting the correct contact person. And how do you do that is by clicking on this little magnifying glass. It'll open up a little window, and then it'll show you all the Kim Walkers in the system. As you can see, there are 6 Kim Walkers. But I'm going to click on this Kim Walker at Points of Light, because that is the correct organization name that's associated with me. And then you want to put in Points of Light, which is the organization. You want to make sure that you click on this first box that says Survey is Required. You can leave these blank, this first accessed and last accessed. And the status, you want to make it new. This % complete, leave it empty, but as people continue to work on their surveys, this field will populate with 50%, 75%, 100%. It'll populate. Also, when they have completed and submitted their report, this status will automatically change. You do not have to go back in and change this for them. So if they're 50% done with their survey, this will automatically turn into in progress. If they're 100% done and they submit, then this will say submitted. Accepted and returned means that once they've submitted their survey, I get an email that says this survey has been submitted. I can then go in and approve their survey as saying that all the data that they've entered in is correct. If I approve it, then this will say accepted. If I do not approve it, it will say, and I return it back to them and say, hey, this number doesn't look right. Can you please go back and correct it? They'll get an email with my note in it, and it'll say returned is what the status will then say. This is what you will see. You can also go back in and change this if you would like. Right. But when you are initially creating a survey instance, always click on New. The New button is what generates the email notification to the survey instance, to the survey respondent. And you always want them to get an email to let them know that their survey is ready. All right. You can click Save if that is the only survey instance you want to create. If you want to create another survey instance, then click Save and New. And then a new screen will appear. So I'm going to select you. Uh-oh. Cameron, what's your last name?
It's Lewis, Lewis.
Oh, Lewis. All right, let's see if you're in here already. So as you can see, there are 12 zillion Cameron Lewises. I'm going to assume this is you. And then I'm going to say you're the last person. So you should receive an email shortly that says that your survey is now ready in Salesforce.
I have received it.
Okay, great. Can you open that email up for me?
Sure.
All right, so the email that you're opening up is the exact email that that your supervisors and members will receive once you've created their survey instance. And so remember when I said it's really important that you make sure that um, those details are in there, because as you can see, the due date shows up in the email. And so if the due date is incorrect or something, you're going to get an email from them or messages from them saying, hey, this is not correct. What is going on? So you want to make sure that is correct. The next thing is that it's going to show them where to go to gain access to their report. And this is the customer portal link. This is the external facing part of the survey builder in Salesforce. So this is what members and supervisors see. They don't see anything that we've just done in Salesforce. They will only see what they see when we click on this link. They also get a notification about their username and their password. So their username is typically 99% of the time their email address. And then their password is a computer generated password. And they receive that notification when we first create their contact record and enable the customer portal access in Salesforce. They forget this all the time, so we have to go back in and reset all the time. I will not show you how to do that because that email will come to the evaluation team, and so we can reset it for them. And then it gives instructions on under this tab. You can look for this report, and when you're done entering, click submit. So not only will I receive this email, but whoever creates that survey instance will get an email also. So I got one for you and for me, pretty much. All right. So now that we've created 2 survey instances, I'm going to click on this survey instance name. And the survey instance name takes me directly to that individual's survey. So once I clicked on it, this will be all the information that Kim Walker puts in for that report. And I can view the survey. So that you can see what it looks like. So again, there are 3 components to the survey. Anytime and this is what the survey will look like on their end. Right? So you want to make sure that it looks correct. One thing I noticed here is that as part of the question, she could kind of put in a time frame so they can think about it. If this time frame changes, then you need to change that within the survey as well. Because you don't want them to be confused when they click open their survey and they say, oh, I thought this was our report and it was supposed to cover July through December. But it says March through June, and so they'll be very confused. So you will need to go back and change that. And I will quickly show you how to do that. So under the survey, remember there were several sections. There were 3 sections. Under the quantitative metrics section, you have a list of all the question names, the question text. So the question text is what the question appears like on the user end. The preceding text is kind of like your instructions. And so where you just saw March 1st through June the 3rd, this is where that preceding text goes. In order to change that preceding text, click on Edit. And then in this little box, you'll see the information. So I'm going to say July 1st through December 3rd. And save. So this is one reason why checking the survey is very important. You want to make sure that you are seeing exactly what the end user will see. So because I made a change and my window was still open to view the survey, I just opened that window back up and clicked reload so it'll refresh itself so I can see what that survey looks like. Go back to the quantitative metrics section. And as you can see, the change was made for me. All right. Let's move over to the next section. And so she just says completed over the life of the grant. So whatever that means. There's a question in here that inside the text that asks, how is your organization helped or impacted by Sandy? This may not be relevant anymore. This Hurricane Sandy. Maybe your focus of the grant is something different. I'm not sure. But for the purposes of this test survey, I am going to edit this question. Right. So we're going to go back to our survey and go to the section Impact of Grant. While it's thinking, you can see that because I've opened the survey and started clicking through the survey, my status is now in progress. And it tells you the date I last assessed it, whereas yours is new because you haven't opened it yet. Okay, I'm not real sure as to why my computer is going slow, so we may just have to skip that part. Are there any questions so far?
No, I don't think so.
All right. Oh, there we go. Okay. So it's the first question was the one who said about Sandy. In order to edit that question, you actually have to click on the question name and not the link, the edit link. You can click edit and change this information right here. What I will say is,
For some reason the screen didn't come back on my end.
okay, let's see. Oh, I had a network issue. Okay, are you able to see it now?
Yes.
Okay. So I clicked on, let me go back because I'm not sure where you last saw. Um, one thing to note here is that your recent items is very helpful. So anytime you click on a link, it'll show up to your last, I think, 10 or so recent items that you clicked on. So you don't have to continually click on the back button. So I'm going to click on the impact of grants because I know that was the section in which this question was housed. So in order to change that little piece inside the question text, you actually need to click on the question name, and then it'll take you to that question detail, and you can edit this piece right here. But a caveat to know about like changing a question text is that it will change what that text looks like for all of your surveys. For any survey that has that question associated with it, it will change that question for all of them. So if for the last final report, it was about Sandy and you wanted it to be about Sandy, then do not change this at all. But if in the future you want the question to not say Sandy or not say anything at all, what you would need to do is clone that clone that question, change the question name because a question cannot have the same name. We're just going to call this the test. And then I'm going to delete all of that about this and save it. So moving forward, if I'm creating another survey, another final report, I'm going to delete the question that asks about Sandy and add this one. Let's see, should I show you how to do that? Sure, I'll show you how to do that. So we're going to go back to our impact of grant section. At least I'm going to try to. I am having some network issues here in the room, so Hey Cameron,
Hey.
I'm having some network issues, so
Okay.
hopefully it won't go back out again. Um, we're just gonna go with it. I'm in a room, so sometimes our Wi-Fi works and sometimes it doesn't.
Okay.
So hopefully you can now see my screen again.
Yes.
And all right. So I kind of was where I last thought I left off anyway, was since I'm doing a new survey and I don't really need this Sandy question, I'm going to delete it. But before I delete it, I'm going to copy this preceding text so I don't have to type that over again. And I'm going to just delete this question. Are you sure? Yes, I'm sure. And go back down here where all my questions are and click on new question section mapping. Find that this was the last question I created. What's really smart about the survey builder is that it can auto populate. So if you type in one thing, it'll pull up what it thinks you mean. So you don't necessarily have to go searching for it all the time. So this was the last question I created. I'm going to say you have to give it an order. So order number 1. And that text that I just copied, I'm going to paste in the box and click save. And if you scroll down, here's the new question, but everything should look the same. How do we test that to make sure that it looks the same? You want to go to your survey. View survey. And we were in the impact of grant section, so we want to click on that. And as you can see, my question is now different. All right. So one of the things, that's pretty much all you need to understand so far about the survey builder inside of Salesforce. How to clone a survey, how to create a survey instance, how to view your survey. That's pretty much what you need to know in order to create a survey. We're going to move to the data part because you will probably need to know how to export data. So there are 2 different ways you can do that. The first way you can get data is that there are 3 different ways actually. If you want individual data, so say you just want to know what the North Texas site did. You don't want to know what all the sites did. So you would click on that survey instance, and it would look like this screen here, and view data. The view data button will download an Excel file. And once you open the Excel file, well, I don't actually need to do that. But once you open the Excel file, you'll get a message that says, do you trust this source? Do you want to open it anyway? Click on yes. And then you'll see a regular Excel file. You don't really need to know what that is. I'm assuming you know what Excel looks like, so that's fine. The main thing is that if you want to know what the data for the entire group, if you want to know that, get all of that in one Excel file or CSV file, you need to go back to the survey Remember where we had the edit, submit for approval, clone? You want to click on the data export button. In the data export box, you're going to see all this code and gibberish. And all you need to do is follow the steps here on how to actually see that. So click inside the box. You want to copy, and then you want to paste it inside of a text file, a text document. Let me see. Since I was only sharing my Google, let's see if I can share. Let me just share my desktop for now. Okay. So there's this box with all the gibberish in it. You clicked inside of it. You click on copy once it's all highlighted. Then you find your like notebook or your text notepad, and you paste all of that gibberish inside of the notepad, and you save it as a CSV file. So I'm going to call this a CPC test.csv. And you want to save it, type as all files. And I'm going to save it on my desktop, but you save it wherever you want to save it. And then you can close the notepad out. Then wherever you saved it, you want to find the file. So again, I posted mine on my desktop. And so when I opened it, this is all the gibberish that comes out. And you will need to clean up this file. So what I normally do is I just create a new sheet, and I copy over all of this into the new sheet. And then I delete the fields that I don't need. So I don't need this survey instance. I don't need the org ID, so I'm going to delete. I don't need the respondent ID, so I delete it. And these up here are the question IDs and the section IDs. I don't need that. I delete it when I'm cleaning it up. But I leave it over here because if I need to go back into Salesforce, like say I had an issue and I can't find it, then I leave it so I can go back in and find and search for my ID. That is a deeper lesson that we will not go into today, but for future reference, if you're interested, we can go through how you go back and search Salesforce using record IDs and org IDs and things like that. We won't do that today, but just make sure that you always keep this page with the ID. And you can clean this up any way you like. But as you can see, we haven't entered in any data, so there's no data available. So I'm going to close that out. All right, are there any questions about that?
No, I don't think so.
All right. Okay, so the next thing that I'm going to show you is on the user end, on the customer portal side, so you know what members or supervisors or whomever you assign the survey to, what that looks like for them. Okay, so when they click on that link, it'll take them to the customer portal page, and it gives them information on what to do. I'm going to log in as myself. And this is what it looks like for them. So I have a lot of different tabs up here. They will have these first three. They may have some timesheet tabs up there. It may look different for them. But for completing their surveys, all they need is the My Surveys tab. And since that was the last survey I did, it's going to be at the bottom or somewhere in here. Or did I do it in alphabetical order? Where is it? Here we go. So in order to begin their survey, they want to click on Edit Survey. And then they can begin typing and click. You want to make sure that they always validate and save. So if they validate and save, they can re-enter at a later date and complete as they go. They don't have to do this all at one time. As long as they're saving their data, that's all they need to do. Once it's complete, once they've completed everything, their status bar will say 100% complete. I'm just doing this so I can show you what happens. Validate and save. Did I miss one? So if I miss something or if there is an error, then I get this confirmation. I want to correct it since I want to save. And wherever I didn't answer, it'll show up red. So validate and save. And now I'm 100% complete and I can submit my survey. Okay. Once you submit your survey, it takes you back to that home screen where all your surveys live under the My Surveys tab. And it'll say submitted. And then I get an email that says it's ready for approval. They can print out their survey so they can keep it for their records. It only will print one page at a time if they do it like this. So just let them know that it does that. And then I just logged myself out. So there you go. But now what does it look like on the back end, on the Salesforce end? So on the Salesforce end, if I click on my survey instance, log me out. This is something new. It normally doesn't do this. So let me log myself back into Salesforce. Okay, so this was the last survey that I just worked on that showed up in my recent surveys. And as you can see under the survey instance, it says that I'm 100% complete. And so that's what you see on the back end. All right. One last thing I will show you is that when you're creating a contact within Salesforce, you want to make sure that that contact has a customer portal account, that they are enabled. Otherwise, they won't be able to access it, and you'll get emails saying, well, I will get an email saying they can't get into their account. So we're going to just click on your name, Cameron Lewis. and that will take us to the to your contact record. All right, so how do I know if you are if your customer portal is enabled or not? You want to go to manage external user and enable customer user. So even though you received an email saying your report is ready, you would not have been able to do anything with that report because you don't have a customer portal account. So that works out great for this training. So I'm going to click on enable customer user, and this page pops up with all of this required information. The profile that you want to use for members is ND service member. What you want to use for the supervisor is time approver. I think that is. But since you work here, we're just going to do over you are a high volume user, and click save. So there's already someone in here with your username who has a customer portal license, which is odd. But there were several of you in the system. So there is something going on with your contact record. So when this happens, because again, remember I told you most of the time your username is your email address. So when this happens and there are multiple people and there's a duplicate username being used, I typically change the username. And so I just add a 1 at the end. This does not change your Salesforce password. This just changes your access to the customer portal. So when you need to use the customer portal, you have a different username. I don't think I'm going to do that right now, though, because I don't want to mess anything up. But typically, that's what you would do. All right, are there any questions about any of that? That was kind of a lot to go over. So
I have a couple of questions. I guess the first one is, does everyone have to have a portal account in order to fill out a survey?
yes.
Why is that? Why is they? So I would need to make sure that if I send out a survey to 50 people, that all 50 people had a portal account and were able to access it. Is that right?
Yes.
Is that the same with ClickTools?
No. So with ClickTools, you just give them one URL and they go in and complete the survey. The difference is that there's some differences. So with ClickTools, they can only access that survey one time. So if they wanted to complete half, they couldn't do that using ClickTools. They would have to do it all at once. With the survey reports, they can go in as many times as they want to until they feel like it's ready and then submit. So that's one advantage or one pro con for each. With ClickTools, it does not necessarily go back into Salesforce where you can export the data and create reports and dashboards. So, whereas with the SurveyBuilder, it lives inside of the Salesforce database. It's always connected to that organization's record and that contact record. That is not necessarily the case in ClickTools. In ClickTools, there is a process that you have to go through to map all the questions and integrate it back into Salesforce, and it takes a lot more steps to do. And it's a little harder to do.
Um, so it sounds like um, Survey Builder is better for a smaller audience that you have direct control over, such as AmeriCorps Vistas or CPC members. But if you were going to do a broad survey, that QuickTools might be an easier tool to use.
Correct. So it's not really dependent upon the size. It's more about having more direct contact. So for our annual report that we send out to all 250 affiliates, that is hosted within Survey Builder.
Hmm.
Because
But if you were doing an external survey, like
yes,
with
but if we
people
were doing
outside the organization,
right, so an external survey, we would use ClickTools or
okay,
SurveyMonkey.
okay, that helps.
SurveyMonkey does not integrate back into Salesforce. ClickTools will integrate back into Salesforce if you map the survey and you tell it where to go. And it takes some time. Survey Builder is always in Salesforce.
Okay. Right now we've been using the AmeriCorps Vista survey as an example. Um, Eventually we will need to create monthly and quarterly reports, and I'll see where those are housed with Eric and Urena, but one of those might be something that we need to put in a survey builder so we can clone it um, and redo it every quarter or
Right,
month.
so right now it looks like the quarterly reports and their final report is in Survey Builder. And it looks like their monthly report is in Google. It looks like it's a spreadsheet, I think,
Hmm.
and that's in
Um,
Google.
okay, monthly is in Google. Is there a
But
way
check
to
with
move
them to
over
make
surveys?
sure.
Do you know if there's a way to move over past surveys from Google or from SurveyMonkey?
Say that one more time.
Is there a way to move surveys from SurveyMonkey or Google into Survey Builder?
There is a way, but it's very hard.
Hmm.
Um, and it's probably easier just to create new ones. It's very hard. I don't think you all have any surveys in Google. I think just the monthly spreadsheet, which is their monthly report of how they give their monthly accounting, is in there, and they can give great stories. So that monthly programmatic reporting that does not need to be in the survey builder, to my knowledge.
Oh, okay. Okay.
It can stand alone.
Great. Okay. I think those are all my questions. Thank you.
Okay. Um, so what I'm going to do is, since I recorded this, I'm going to try to post it to YouTube so that you can see it at any time. You can go back and look at it at any time. Um, and I'm going to send it out to you, Eric, and Irena.
Perfect.
And if you have any other questions, feel free to answer. I know Joanne is leaving, but I know a lot about Salesforce, and so I can try to help you out along the way.
Okay. Perfect. Yeah, so Joanne's last day is the 30th.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So thank you for
All right.
bearing with
Thank you.
all this. This is a lot of information. So
That was very helpful. Thank you, Kim.
thank you. Talk to you later.
All right. All right. Have a good day.